I'm Niamh. I'm currently abseiling off Footscray Road, blocking 6 lanes of traffic on a Blockade Australia protesting on the Port of Melbourne, the largest container port on this continent. I'm taking action on Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri country, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. A brutal war was waged on this continent over 250 years ago when colonisers first came to this land, and we should always remember that. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Give me a second, just taking my bearings. So yeah, I'm currently abseiling above the Maribyrnong River, and above me on this bridge is Footscray Road, which is the largest in and out road to the largest terminal of the Port of Melbourne, Crude Island. 6 lanes of traffic going both ways, blocks almost all trucks going in and out of the Port of Melbourne. I'm taking this action because the project that we call Australia is an extractive and exploitative system that is currently destroying the planet and causing the climate crisis. The government and the institutions and the big corporations are working together for profit and do not care about taking action on the climate crisis, which is currently threatening all species and human life and non-human life on this earth. And so therefore taking effective action that effectively disrupts and halts this system is the only thing that's possible. You can't demand anything from a system that is never going to change. That is why I'm taking action with Blockade Australia today. For people who have just joined, I'm Niamh, and I'm currently dangling about 3 or 4 meters in the air above off Footscray Road, blocking 6 roads of traffic into the largest container port in Australia. 98% of Australia's imports and exports go through ports, the 4 major ports in Melbourne, and 8 major ports across this continent. And this week we've blocked 3 of those major ports, and today I'm blocking Melbourne Port, the largest container port in Australia. So I'm taking this action because we live on a continent that is run by a project that we call Australia. Australia is an extractive and exploitative system that is working to cause the climate crisis, driven by profit and greed. All it cares about is exploiting and extracting to gain money, and it's never going to take action on the climate crisis that we need to see. That's why I'm effectively taking action by halting all 6 lanes of traffic on Footscray Road above me, and by taking direct action and stopping the system in its tracks and stopping the extraction. I am taking effective action by myself to create the change that we need to see, and that's the only way to do it. You can't demand anything of a system that is never going to ask anything, can't demand anything of a system that is never going to listen. The system won't listen because it's driven by profit, and a system that's driven by profit is inaccessible to everyday people, and something like taking direct action in an accessible space that everyday people can always be is super important way to take change, and one of the only effective ways to do so. Parliament is an inaccessible place made for people to run off the corporations, and will never be a place where change can actually be created. So yeah, I'm dangling off a bridge. I have a banner behind me below me that you can't really see in this live stream, but I'm sure there'll be videos of it, photos of it later, that says you can't demand anything from the system because you can't, and the only way to take effective change is by taking direct action and putting a halt to the system itself, which is what we need to see at a mass scale, is putting a halt to the system itself. Yeah, so I guess for those of you who have just joined, I'm Niamh, and I'm currently abseiling over Footscray Road, blocking 6 lanes of traffic in and out of the Port of Melbourne, and I'm dangling over Melbourne River here. Yeah, just gonna get my bearings for a second and sit down. It's all a bit of a rush when jumping straight out of a car and into hanging up here. But yeah, I guess I'm taking this action because when I was 15, back in 2019, I was asked to run a school strike in the lead up to the 2019 election. Within 3 weeks before the 2019 election, I organised a school strike, and with 150 students and peers from Castlemaine, I went to my local MP's office, and they ignored us when asking us, when we asked them to take real action on climate change. We saw the election change, nothing on climate change, saw no result, and nothing continued to happen. 6 months later, I organised September 2019 with school strike, which was the largest school strike in Australia's history, and the largest climate mobilisation. I stood on stage and watched 200,000 people demand climate action, and I saw no result. I campaigned again in the 2022 election to, what people call the climate election, and again, I have seen no real action taken on the climate crisis. Sorry, my throat's a bit dry. In 2022, June last year, I went up to Sydney for Blockade Australia's open mobilisation. There, I was at the Colo camp when it got raided. I was there for 3 days before I got surrounded by 100 police within like 30 minutes of being there, and surrounded for 3 hours, standing in a circle with like 30 people who, I'd only just met, but all cared so much about creating the change that needs to happen through effective action, and watching the state, decide to repress us because they thought our resistance was effective, was a motivating experience, even if a tricky one. And going out on the streets later that week in Sydney was powerful in the way that made me to decide to take this action today, and take effective direct action to halt the system, because I know that you can't demand change from a system that is only driven by profit. So yeah, that's, I guess, why I take action, because I have tried to demand from the system before, and I know it hasn't worked. I tried for 4 years. I've tried since I was 15. I am 20 now, and I know that this is the only way to take effective action. Yeah, I'm just gonna go grab some water, because I'm gonna try and spin around. I'm gonna try and not drop the phone. I'm just gonna put you in the bag. Okay, I think I'm going. Sorry for the little delay. Just put you in my bag while I had some water. I'm just trying to turn my banner around so I'm not facing the bridge, but I think my prosthetics are a bit weird. Anyway, come at me while I do some climbing with the phone. Cool. Hi, if anyone new has just joined, I was just taking a bit of a break and getting some water, but I'm Niamh and I'm currently dangling from, or abseiling off Footscray Road, which is a 6-lane road that feeds both the Port of Melbourne, the largest container port on this continent, and I'm taking this action because we live on a continent that's run by a project that we call Australia. This project is extractive and exploitative in its nature and only cares about the profit of industries and corporations, and therefore will never take effective action on the climate crisis. The climate crisis is currently the biggest threat that we're facing, as a collective today. I have seen, this is something that I've grown up with ever since I was little, seeing it around like everywhere in the media, in the news. I've been trying to take effective action on climate change ever since I was 15. I tried to demand things from the system. I tried to ask the government to create change through school strikes. I watched 200,000 other people try and do it with me and saw nothing in return. So taking effective action by abseiling off this bridge and halting the system that we call Australia, to me feels like the only way to create change and stop the climate crisis running at full pelt towards us, and to save this planet. So yeah, I encourage other people to think about doing something similar. This, feels big and feels scary. It definitely is big and scary. I had many nerves before this action, but it is very empowering to sit here and know that I have just halted the system for a moment, and I'm doing it alongside, a coordinated mobilisation to stop the coordinated destruction that is happening. At the moment, there's more mobilisations happening at the Port of Newcastle, the largest coal port in Australia, and the Port of Brisbane. This coordinated mobilisation hits 3 of the largest ports on the east coast of this continent. Yeah. The climate crisis is a super scary thing. It's the thing that, is causing the degradation of this planet, killing flora and fauna, killing our ecosystems, and it will kill human and non-human life until this planet is done. And the only way we can stop it is by taking collective direct action together. The systems of this continent will never take effective action themselves, because they are just driven by the profit. These systems look like the government, who is really run by big corporations and money, and will always just spend the time arguing and never looking out for the people, because it is precedented on a colonial system that, was built off profit and stealing land and money and killing people, and causing genocide and putting blood all over this land. We have, many things to think about in the resistance that First Nations people have done on this land for the last 250 years against this system, and we're fighting in, a different system, in fighting our own fight, and standing in solidarity in First Nations fight. against the system that is waging war against us. I'm trying to turn around. Sorry, just moving my banner around. Yeah, for people who have just joined, I'm Niamh. I'm currently abseiling off Footscray Road and blocking 6 lanes of traffic in and out of the Port of Melbourne. I am taking this effective action to halt the system that is causing the climate crisis. This system is, driven by greed and profit, and extracts and exploits the planet and this continent. We've seen extractive natures in most things that happen on this continent, and blatant disregard for nature, with mining and logging, and blowing up of, cultural sacred sites. The extractive nature of this planet is, so simple to see, but so many ignore. And taking action like this, offensive, direct action, attacking the system, rather than saving something, is super important as a way to create the change that we need to see. We need to take offensive direct action and put ourselves on the front foot, so that we can stop the system that is trying to kill us all. The system is driving the climate crisis, and that sounds scary. It's really scary to think that the only way to stop this thing is we can't use the channels that we're told we can use as a kid, going through Parliament, asking for reforms in policy. That's the sort of stuff that you want to believe you can do. I tried to do that for 4 years. I stood on stage with 200,000 people in the largest climate mobilisation in Australia's history, and asked for change, and I saw no result. I still saw no result 3 years later. This is why I am currently dangling off Footscray Road, blocking 6 lanes of traffic, because it is the only way to take effective action and stop the system and to create the change that we need to see to stop the climate crisis hurtling towards us. Yeah, I guess I'm just going to try and move some things around on my harness system here. It gives me a moment. Yeah, I guess this is, you can see, you can kind of see some of the port trucks going in and out over there. You can't see the port over there under this bridge, but yeah, I don't know what's happening above me, but yeah. For people who have just joined, I'm Niamh, and I'm currently abseiling off Footscray Road, blocking 6 lanes of traffic in and out of the Port of Melbourne, which is the largest container port in Australia, on this continent. The project that we call Australia, which is made up of the economic and political systems, is driving the climate crisis. These economic systems that extract and exploit this continent and its country and its land and its peoples are, driving the climate crisis and bringing us towards total collapse. And the Port of Melbourne is a bottleneck of this system, of this economic system. And by blocking it, I am taking effective action and halting the system while this road is blocked for a period of time. And therefore, creating the change that we need to see. We need to see these massive industries stopped if we're ever going to see a solution to the climate crisis, and if we're ever going to see, the mass destruction that we currently see now stopping. And so by stopping that myself today, I am creating the change that we want to see. Yeah, I guess I don't really know what to say because I keep repeating myself. Yeah, it's a very lovely morning up here, not very windy. Nice, and it's not actually super cold either. But yeah, I am currently abseiling off Footscray Road, blocking 6 lanes of traffic in and out. This is a major thoroughfare between Docklands and Footscray, which also contains the entire crude island, which is the largest terminal of the Port of Melbourne, and also all the entrance to all the fuel depots on the other side of the Port of Melbourne. So I'm effectively blocking most of the Port of Melbourne's export and import this morning, and traffic and trucks along this road. And by putting a stop to those in place, I am taking effective action on climate change and the climate crisis that is driving our planet into extinction. Yeah, I guess I decided to take this action today because the climate crisis is scary, and it's something that I've known since I was very little, and it wasn't something that I was I was always pretty aware, taught in school about global warming, and there was always on the news that the governments were going to create the change, that they were going to bring in a new policy that was going to be effective, and that never seemed to come to anything. I started, doing activism and striking from school and asking the government to create the change, and I never saw that come to anything either. I organised something with 200,000 people at it, the largest climate mobilisation in Australia's history, demanded the government to take effective action on climate change, and nothing happened. By hanging off this bridge, I am creating the effective change that we need to see, and to me that means you can't demand anything from the system, and that the only way to create the change is to take effective direct action, collective direct action that halts bottlenecks in ports, roads and rails, is important. In these are the system's points of weakness, points of accessibility, and points of economic height where lots of money and extractive exploitive industries go through, and these points, by disrupting them, do create effective change that we need to see to halt the climate crisis in its tracks. Yeah, so I guess part of what I'm doing here is a coordinated mobilisation across this continent. You know, and this is a Blockade Australia mobilisation at the Port of Melbourne alongside these things, and we need coordinated resistance for coordinated destruction that we're seeing of our planet currently. So by having this coordinated resistance across this continent, it's a start, and we need to see it grow as we move forward. And so I encourage everyone to, you know, watch this live stream and think about what you can do to help with this. Sorry, there are police talking above me. Yeah, so we're living on an extractive, exploitative system on this continent. The system is made up of the economic, but it is also made up of the political. The political system is not going to create the change we need to see. It is controlled partly by the economic system and the big businesses and corporations, you know, that are driven by profit and money. And so we are never going to see effective change taken by them. And, you know, it's important to acknowledge that so that we can then take effective direct action and stop demanding things from the system, because you can never demand something of a system that is driven by greed and is driven by, you know, corporate want to extract and exploit, and is never going to actually take into account the need to stop the climate crisis and take effective action on climate change. Australia blocks effective action on climate change. This system will always block that effective action, and that's why we need to take effective action together, like I have today by blocking Footscray Road, which leads into the largest port, largest container port on this continent. Yeah. For anyone who's just joined, I'm Niamh. I'm currently abseiling off Footscray Road, blocking 6 lanes of traffic in and out of the largest container port in Australia, the Port of Melbourne. And I'm taking this effective direct action today to halt the climate crisis, which is being caused by the system of the project that is so-called Australia. Australia is made up of the economic and political systems that extract and exploit this continent. It doesn't include the peoples or the land, but the institutions and complexes that make up the system are designed to extract and exploit for profit, and will never act on the climate crisis as long as profit is to gain, and there will always be profit to gain. The system is based off a colonial genocide that started here 250 years ago, and that system is not going to change if that's what it's predicated on. We must change the system together, and taking effective direct action to halt the system is the way to start that. Because if we want to create a new system together, what we need to see is many, many more people taking effective direct action, so we can come up with a system that works for the collective of all of us together, and that's what's most important. Oh my God. yeah. Yeah, so I guess the climate crisis is currently going to cause the, you know, complete collapse of human and non-human life and everything we know and love on this planet. It's going to see collapse of, you know, food systems, water systems, ecosystems, flora, fauna, animals, like everything that like we see around us today. And, you know, thinking about that, and, you know, people right now who are suffering due to climate disaster and floods across this, you know, globe, but also, you know, the disasters that we've seen in Australia, on this continent, you know, in the past couple of years, with the like floods in Lismore and the 2020 Black Summer bushfires. You know, these things are scary, and these things are only going to get worse. And the system on this continent, the project that we call Australia, is driving the climate crisis. It is causing the like heating up of this planet, the burning of the carbon and the fossil fuels and the other extractive and exploitive industries that create the climate crisis. The Port of Melbourne is, you know, a big factor in creating the climate crisis. It exports and imports goods from across the world. These goods, you know, this bottleneck is a large parts of profit that this system, economic system, gains from, you know, not acting on the climate crisis. And by halting it, we can create change. Yeah, we must like create change together, and create change by taking effective collective direct action. And I encourage other people who, you know, think about the climate crisis and the effects it's going to have, to think about ways that they can take effective direct action, because you can't demand anything from a system that is never going to listen. The system that we call so-called Australia, that's made up of the economic and political systems, is never going to listen, because it benefits from the profits of the climate crisis. That we see the climate crisis is being created by these profits, and these profits are what the system benefits off, and the system is never going to you know, take action on the climate crisis if it's going to take these profits. Australia will always block effective action on climate change, and therefore we need to block Australia. So I'm taking action with Blockade Australia today, and, you know, I encourage other people to come and join us, come join Blockade Australia actions in the future, because we must blockade Australia and blockade major bottlenecks, economic bottlenecks and pinch points, if we are ever going to create effective change. I'm just going to fiddle around with my ropes for a second. It's very hard. I have a lot of rope around me at the moment, I'm just trying to drop some of it so I can spin around. Oh, it got into the water. Nice. A lot of other cord.
Hey, how you going?
I'm okay.
You okay?
The police are talking to me from above, apparently.
Hello?
Yeah?
Can you, do you want to give us your name, please?
I'm Niamh.
Sorry?
I'm Niamh. Niamh?
Me. Well, we're obviously setting up to get this way. You have to come up on your own accord?
No,
Okay.
I'm not going to come up.
So we'll send someone down. Will you, just in a precarious situation, are you happy to cooperate when we get down there?
I'll see what happens.
Right, okay, you want to play that way. Alright, well, no, okay.
The police are talking to me. I think they're about to send someone down to come and try and get me off this road and stop me blocking Footscray Road and all 6 lanes of traffic in and out. I'm trying to swing this around, but it's not very working. I'm just trying to get my banner around at the moment. But it's not working very well due to it being very big and it being pretty windy. Oh. But yeah, for people who have just joined, I'm Niamh, and I'm blocking 6 lanes of Footscray Road, which is a major thoroughfare for the Port of Melbourne, which is the largest container port on this continent. I'm currently just trying to move my banner around. Oh my god. No. Sorry for people watching the live stream and I'm spinning around. Yeah, so currently I'm hanging off Footscray Bridge, you know, taking effective action. I believe that, you know, taking collective direct action is the only way you can effectively create change, by blocking economic bottlenecks of the system that are causing the climate crisis. I can stop the climate crisis, you know, or halt the system for a point of time to create the change that we need to see, and that demanding things from the system is never going to create the effective change that we need to see on this continent. The systems work for profit and selfish reasons, and therefore, you know, we must take collective direct action outside these systems' boundaries if we're ever going to see the change that we need to see to stop the climate crisis. And that's why taking direct action is super important. You know, these systems are driving the climate crisis, and you know, we can't really afford to see further climate destruction. We have seen so much in the past, you know, well, since I was alive, I've seen so much climate destruction through all the catastrophic climate natural disasters, you know, living through the current, like, 6th mass extinction. You know, species go dead across the world every single day. You know, it's a super scary period of time to live in, not ever knowing what the future's going to look like, or where it can go, or what's ever going to happen. and taking effective action today and blocking this bridge makes me feel empowered, because I know that I have the ability to create the change myself and stop the system in creating climate change myself. Okay, I think the police are coming down now and are going to... Hi. So I might say goodbye, but thank you everyone for watching. I was Niamh, and I took effective direct action with Blockade Australia today.